All right, here we go. Hey, Ollie. nice, to, nice to have you on stream.
Hi.
We had a bit of a technical difficulty before logging in, but thank you for everyone that's waiting in chat. We scrambled everywhere before starting. I tried to do an edit just to be able to stream properly, and it was like 5 minutes before everything started, and it became a mess. But here we are. We're
Now we
alive.
got it.
We got it.
Now we got it.
Yeah, for this stream today, as you all know, we're going in early access in September 14th. But there are some concerns that came up with the game because we all know people like CRPGs and more in-depth stories, and there was like a little bit of disconnect in a lot of people's mind on how we would be able to integrate the Pathfinder brand into a Survivor game. But here we are, and I think we have the best person to discuss
I
about this
hope so.
subject. I hope so too. And we'll have also like you can ask question in chat as soon as we go. Um, well, we'll try to bounce with everything. I'll try to play by asking question Aldi at the same time, so you'll get some gameplay. And if you have questions about how we do it, but I'll start with you, Ollie. So I'll switch with a little bit of gameplay then, and you can go ahead and introduce yourself, so that way it'll be people can get to know you a bit better.
Okay, well, not that much to say. My name is Oliver. I'm the game designer on Gallowspire Survivors. It's been my baby since the start of the year, so I'm very proud of what we have. I'm very happy to be here to talk about it today. I've been in the gaming industry for a while. Started back in the cell phone, flip phone days back in 2004. I've been through many both AAA company and indie companies in a few different roles. I've been a game designer for I'd say about 8 or 9 years, and yeah, so I'm long time both D&D and Pathfinder player, both Pathfinder 1 and Pathfinder 2. I'm actually running Abomination Vaults with a group right now.
That's so nice. And
Uh,
you're a DM, right?
yes, I'm currently DMing. Yeah,
Nice.
I've both played and DM. I like both. I do like DMing a little bit better. I've done both hardcovers, adventure paths, and homebrew. I tend to always put a little bit of homebrew in my things anyway, so this project was perfect for me, honestly,
Yeah.
because that's pretty much what it was, right? It's a lot of homebrew love added on top of that special Pathfinder flavor and universe, and uh, um, trying to make it fit as best we can with the genre that is the bullet heaven survivors game. It's hard to describe that genre, but it about sums it up.
And yeah, as we said, like um, getting those elements into a Survivor game isn't easy, but it's still like a kind of a core thing that we want to do. So what element for you, like, were the strongest or was better, like, to translate, and what did you need to put aside that just didn't fit with what you had in mind?
The main thing we needed to do was because of the genre was convey class identity and the class flavor that we were representing. Because of that, and I know I've seen the comments, we went with very basic classes, but they're also they also have very strong identity, right?
Yeah.
So yes, they're not super crazy out there classes, but they have well established class fantasies, and it's a lot easier for non-Pathfinder player as well to identify with them,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and also to identify with them as Pathfinder player as well. The fighter, the wizard, the rogue, they've been in there since pretty much the beginning of tabletop.
Yeah.
They've been even before tabletop existed. Taking Lord of the Ring as example, you have all of those. Um, so that was the main thing. So again, we can't do one-to-one translation, but it was to take how they attack, so their weapons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When they level up, the kind of feat, the kind of special powers, spells, features that they get, and try to include those things best as we can in this genre that is not used to, taking inspiration from tabletop games.
Get it. And we already have a question from Liana. What's your personal favorite class to play in the game?
I am probably a wizard, man. I really like the wizard. I like big explosions, big VFX, like fireworks and stuff like that.
And
Um,
I spoiled it a little bit. I'm because you told me a bit before.
yeah,
You like the lightning source, lightning wizard. Sorry. Uh,
yes, I think. Well, I mean, chain lightning. Everybody agrees chain lightning is amazing. It's a really good defensive tool.
yeah,
It's pretty good offensively as well, but it's mainly good defensively. I am a huge fan of lightning bolt.
yeah,
I like mowing down enemies with lightning bolt. I think it is great. And Sudden Bolt has seen a lot of improvements. It is quite impactful, and it also looks really good. Fire
yeah,
is fun, but fire is very powerful but random. I absolutely love Falling Star, but it's hard to use. I will admit it's hard to use, but it's good for people that like RNG, that people that like gambling, because it does not always hit, but when it hits like a freight train.
yeah.
So you have to give and take, right? It can't be good all the time, but it's good sometimes.
Hmm. Makes sense. And could you introduce a bit how where in our game, like where is it situated, located in the Pathfinder timeline, in the Pathfinder universe, like how is it
Right.
incorporated into it?
All right. So we are located in Gallowspire, which is an infamous dungeon. Technically, we are below Gallowspire, if you want to be technical, because Gallowspire being a tower, the dungeon is under it, and it is the lair, the dungeon of the Archlich, Lich King, Whispering Tyrant. You can call it whatever you want, Tarbathon. And well, it's hard. So there's very little material describing exactly what it's like. So we had to improvise and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But we tried to keep the spirit of it. We tried to keep the description of that place that we had, and the deeper you go, the more the more Tarbafani it gets. I guess that's the best way to describe it until you actually get to him.
Yeah,
The bosses that we have, I know people have mainly seen the Grave General, right?
yeah,
But we do have more bosses than that. And the Grave General is funny because it's not an official boss of the adventure path, but it is basically a imagination of what one of the generals of Tarbafan could be, because there is mention he has a lot of generals, with his army,
yeah.
and we wanted to do something impactful, epic visually.
And he
Uh,
is.
yes,
I love
and
his attacks. Yeah.
the other bosses actually exist in the hardcover. The Crying Kings, they are actual bosses. Ishtravek is an actual boss as well, and then there's the Mighty Tarbafan, which is the boss.
Yeah.
Also, to address, because people have been asking it a lot. Yes, it is in Gallowspire, but it is after Tarbafan was imprisoned, but before he was released. So
Okay.
it is somewhere in that span of time. And to address it, a lot of people have been asking, why don't we have the Iconics? And there's a very, very easy answer to that. Because of where we are in that timeline, the Iconics just don't exist yet. And
Yeah,
we did
makes
not
sense.
want to force them in, right?
Yeah.
So we wanted to stay true to the history of it, and that's why people get to make their own characters. It's not like we were making new iconics. We gave names because they're default names,
Yeah, yeah.
but really what it is it is your characters.
Exactly. And building upon like the narrative kind of thing, like we
Mhm.
have Kaido the Pursuer with a question. Given this is a roguelike game, how much narrative can we expect from it? That's a question that comes up quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it has the narrative. The goal is ultimately to keep Tarbafan sealed, right?
Yep.
So I think everybody knows this that's been following the game at this point, because we are basically singing the or telling whatever the untold story of the heroes that kept him sealed for that long. Eventually he got out, Pathfinder players know, but we are basically saying he was in prison for that long thanks to those three heroes, possibly four or five later, who knows, right?
Who knows?
um, but yeah, that's the reason. And you get to more or less talk. It's more your character talks with the bosses. The bosses talk to you, they taunt you, and Tarbafon is really good at taunting, right? And he taunts both you and the bosses, and he loves to let you know when you impress him. He loves to let you know when you don't, and he loves to do the same with the bosses as well. And the bosses will remember if you defeated them. They will remember if they defeated you, and that might change how they address you.
And were there any games that inspired you to go that route, and like, or example that you think translate well to our games?
The best example I can give for the bosses and for the narrative around the bosses is Hades.
Love it.
Yeah, we took a lot of inspiration from how the player interacts with the bosses in Hades.
Hmm.
It's obviously not exactly the same type of game because
Yeah.
we don't have the same controls, but it took very heavy inspiration from that. We wanted to have a, let's say a Vampire Survivors experience, but plus plus. We wanted to add something unique. We wanted to take a lot from all the roguelike and roguelite genre out there and do something with the Pathfinder world, the Pathfinder IP. And I personally, and of course I would say that, but I personally think that the end product that we have is actually really good at showing all of those things put together. Sorry, microphone.
Get it? So I think one is a strong point that we trying to have is like the goal of the game, and that was I think a recurring point from both Paizo and us was that we needed more people to know about the brand of Pathfinder because it's a huge lore, it's a huge world, and like yes, the CRPGs that you can do from there are really strong and really 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 good, but having people that are more into survivors could really translate into expanding the audience, having new people just to know about the lore, being interested into Pathfinder. So I think having a game that is more accessible, like that's a great way to do it. I don't know what you think about it, but
I agree. I agree. But we do have little lore bits on loading
yeah,
screens.
yeah,
So we do tell about the history of Gallowspire and Tarbafon in general and everything around it. We hope to be able to add more lore bits and bits of storytelling in the game as we go into early access.
yeah,
I can't speak too much on that, but we would like to add more, right? Obviously, we need to know if that's what the community wants,
yeah,
and
100%.
we are reading your comments. We are listening to your feedback. We are doing what we can to improve the game to make everybody happy with it, but at the same time, you know, we still have a game. Maybe the next one can be different, but this one, we have a game, right?
Yeah, yeah, and like we will live through our community feedback, how they respond to our game, how they want to see it evolve. So yeah, I think you're right. Having those kind of feedback, and I I know you're a bit bummed that we can't show everything that's going to be on the day one version of the early access, and we're showcasing some older stuff. But yeah, I think you're totally right on how our audience will help us just bring that game further.
Yeah. So,
Um,
so, so you guys know the build that he's showing. There's been a lot of improvements and changes since. So I wish we could show a build from last week, but that's not the way it works.
nope. Yeah, another question I think from Kaido. It's which creatures were your favorite to design in the game?
Hmm. I have a soft spot for the Balor, um, because they're big, they're imposing, they're scary. They do a lot of things.
Yeah,
But my favorite creatures to design by like a mile are the bosses.
yeah.
Uh,
Okay,
the boss
outside of the
fights,
bosses,
the
outside of
boss
the
fights were a
bosses.
lot of work. Outside of the bosses, uh, the Balor is my number one. I really enjoy doing the Grave Knights as well, but uh, again, there's been improvement. We've been giving more personality to different types of enemies
Yeah.
lately, so there's going to be changes on that. Um, of course, people have seen that because in Biome One, the first mini boss, people have seen the first mini boss. Not everybody can recognize that it's a mini boss, but it is.
Hmm.
Summon some flaming skulls.
Yeah.
And it was important for me to have basically swarm enemies and even kamikaze enemies, and the flaming skulls are one of them. It later on down the line, and we actually can see those during the second phase of the Grave General. We also have exploding skeletons.
Yeah.
They're little red skeletons that their only goal in life is to get to you and explode.
That is good.
That's all they want. Or I guess I should say they're on life.
Yeah. And for myself, I think I would go with like I love seeing the golem pop up as a when he's on screen. I don't know why. Like the feel of him and the, like how strong he is. I love seeing it when I play.
In Biome 2?
Uh, I think I've saw it in mini boss in the first
In Biome
biome.
2.
No, yeah, I think so. But
He's the mini boss of the second biome right now.
okay, nice.
The where everything is more greenish,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
library.
yeah. What we
Yeah,
cannot show too much.
I know, but that's his name is Abomination, and yes, he is stitched up to just uh, follow you to the end of the earth and just try to smash you. That's his goal.
That's good. Um, and yeah, I'm sorry, I'm trying to look my answers while playing. It's not the easiest. Um, yeah, about the classes. Could you
Yeah,
dive a little bit deeper on like the customization and how you added Pathfinder element like from the books, from the 2E or like even like or the
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
go.
So originally, I was thinking, can we do proper Pathfinder progression, right? Because I'm a Pathfinder player as well. I'm a tabletop player as well, and that could have been cool, but it does not quite fit the genre. Um, and the main reason why it does not is because the progression is too slow for a survivor genre, right?
Mm-hmm.
To require XP to unlock like one thing, and then next level, oh, you unlock two things. So I wanted to be able to allow a bit more to be a bit wider, right? And also at the same time, we're doing kind of a vertical slice of Pathfinder in general, of the classes in general, right?
Yeah.
A good example of the fighter. So a lot of the favor of the fighter comes from different feats, and then the different features, position, being better, with weapons, being able to be the best at weapons, actually. Uh, that's Pathfinder 2, obviously. And then having more hit points than other classes, and some of that actually translated well. So when you gain a level, and it's almost hidden because you only get to see that once you're in game. But when you get a class level in your permanent progression in the main menu, right,
Yeah.
you do get more health, and everybody has different starting health. So the wizard has the equivalent, more or less of a d6. So it has a lot less health. It starts at 60. The rogue starts at 80, and then the fighter starts at 100. And then when they level up, they get 10, 8, and 6,
Okay.
respectively.
Okay.
You can also get more health by pointing to Constitution.
All right. We'll be able to make it, Ali. We're there. We're back.
Yeah, yeah. I think Big Puppy was right. We probably had a lightning bolt hit something.
Oh yeah, yeah, totally. Oh my god. I don't know what crashed, so we might experience it once again. Maybe it was the Grave General that just tried to get me to quit.
Maybe that's possible. He sent a
I'm
goal,
so
actually.
sorry, everyone. At least we're trying our best, right? I don't know what's happening with our stream system, and like nothing crashed on my computer except the stream. But we're there. We're still there. So where were we?
The joy of streaming.
Yes, that's it.
I was talking about the fighter, and
Yeah, the
we
hit
were
points
talking
and
about
everything. Yeah,
classes in general,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Right. Um, All right, just to try to resume a bit. So different classes have different amount of health. They also gain different amount of health when they level up, and basically feats, class features, and stuff like that were split into talents and passives. So for those not fully aware of the game, when you play during the game, so we're seeing Francis play right now, you get to choose four attacks and four passives. The passives you get at the beginning of the game are general passive. They're shared between all. They're general feats. Think of them as general feats that are shared between all classes. As you unlock and level up talents, which are basically your class features, you unlock additional passives that belong specifically to that class. And then eventually you have a lot of choice to make, and you can even make your own build. So if you like certain specific attacks, certain specific passives will be better with them.
Nice.
Of course, the one that is the easiest to categorize in flavors is the wizard, because the wizard has frost, fire, and electricity, right?
Yep.
Or cold, fire, electricity, to use proper terms. And you can further specialize into those things, or you can just go more a general route. You can also buffs in various way your ultimate abilities, making them better, last longer, possibly their cooldown, or it's not quite cooldown, their meter charging faster, so you can use them more often. So yes, for those wondering or not, you can specialize your wizard into using their freeze time ultimate, and to use it more often to make it last longer and even make it better.
Nice.
I don't know if you have that, but in a newer version, we added that if you upgrade your ultimate, you have cooldown reduction, which means during the freeze time, you're casting more spells.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I got it. Freeze time, right?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So you do have it.
Yeah, I
All
do
right.
have it. I do have it. I do have it.
Okay. All right. Good. 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 So that's really helpful. And with electricity mastery, it makes it really fun to spam. Like lightning bolt, if your lightning bolt hits 20 enemies, you're going to be able to cast another lightning bolt like almost right away.
Nice.
So the strength of, as funny as it may sound, the strength of electricity is it has a lot of control, because it has a bunch of little mini stuns, so you can stop things in their track. You don't slow them like cold does, but you can stop them. Cold is good at slowing. It's good at debuffing if you get the proper passives and stuff like that, but it does not stun. Fire, on the other hand, is all about offense. It's just about dealing damage. It's the only spells that can eventually deal critical hits, so they deal critical damage. And then if you get the immolation passive, you can also burn enemies. So you deal damage, and then you deal more damage over time,
Okay. Nice.
which normally is something reserved to the rogue. So again, a little bit of everything. The rogue with their poison weapons, you can just shoot enemies, and you can kite them to a certain degree because they're swarming you with your poison weapon. Rogues are really good normally at bursting with sneak attack, and of course our sneak attack is a little different from the tabletop. We don't add precision damage dice, because that's not exactly how it can work. We can't exactly flank or do anything like that. So instead, it is the initial attack on an enemy. So when an enemy is at full health, you can sneak attack them automatically, dealing increased damage. But wait, there's more. While you are inside your smoke bomb ultimate, you are basically hidden, right? Enemies can still hit you if they bump into you, but you have increased dodge chance, so you're better off staying in there. And it also allows you to crit them even if they're not full health.
That's
So
nice.
it's both offensive and defensive.
Sweet.
The fighter's ultimate is Shield Wall, and I am well aware that Shield Wall in Pathfinder is Pathfinder Second Edition as well. Does not do exactly what we have it do. It's a bit more underwhelming in the tabletop than what we have, but I wanted it to feel like while I enable Shield Wall, I can actually just go face tank the enemies. Shield Wall gives you a flat amount of armor, reducing all damage that you take, and it also increases the amount of damage you block with your shield block passive. So yes, shield block is a talent, not a passive. Sorry, it's a talent. You don't have to raise shield to have it. You always have it available as soon as you learn the talent. And then we have shield sweep, which automatically, if you block, you do a sweeping motion with your shield around you, and you deal some damage and you slightly knock them away. Uh, the goal with the fighter is to be able to feel like a fighter. Yes,
Yeah,
they have a few range attacks, but if somebody really loves the bastard sword and they want to go all in on the bastard sword, eventually that's possible.
and
You
it's
know,
quite strong, right?
it can be quite strong, yes. And once you add all the correct talents, you had bravery. Then suddenly, when you're swarm, you have more armor, and with that bravery, eventually you get other passives that also helps you when you're swarmed, and you can actually feel like a tank. Or you can just go great axe and go chakram and just go range fighter, right? You can also
Yeah,
use bows and spears, and so you can be a range fighter if you want.
nice. And another question coming up from Kaido.
Yes.
Uh, can you tell us more about equipment and loot?
Okay. Currently, we do not have proper. I equip my things. As in Pathfinder, you can't equip that, like your armor and your longsword and stuff like that. We don't currently have that. I can't say if we're gonna have that in the future or not. But we see your feedback. We are considering it. We have to wait and see how well received we're gonna be, and if we can continue to we can continue to add more things to the game. So everything is possible with enough, time and love from the community. Currently, the way you do your equipment is, again, when you level up, like we see Francis doing, you get choices of different weapons. That's where you choose your weapons or your spells if you're a wizard. If you're a rogue with Eldritch Trickster, you can also choose a small pool of wizard spells. So you choose your spells there, and then your passives, which are more akin to feet or little features and stuff like that. That's where you choose as well. Eventually, I would love to add more equipment. I would love to add more RPG-esque equipment, but for now, that is what we have.
Yeah, I think the choice was more into uh, character customization,
Okay.
evolution of skill trees. So I think, and like, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think we aimed for a lot more, uh, like new expansion of characters instead of items. But I know it's something that we explored at some point, and but like you said, it really depends on how the game evolved and how's the community responding to everything. But like you said, I think items were not the first choice, and it was more towards our characters and having them be stronger.
Yeah, it's all about the character progression. It's all about the journey of the characters, because they know they need to be stronger to be able to defeat Tarbathon.
Hmm.
They know they have the time to get stronger as well, because they did basically sacrifice themselves to stop the advent of Tarbathon, right?
Yep.
The story that we have is, of the three seals, two are currently done. Two of the seals have been broken, and we basically need to keep Tarbathon and his armies busy, so the two other seals can be remade.
And I think we got the most popular question that comes every time we're
Yeah,
talking about the game from
yeah,
double crit fail.
yeah.
Any chance for multiplayer?
Yes, there's a chance for multiplayer.
But not at launch, right?
We will not have multiplayer on September 14th, sadly. Sorry. But rejoice, there's good chances you will get it after that. Can't say when, can't promise it either, but there's good chances.
I think it's something that even the team, when we were working on it, is something that came up really often.
We've talked about it. We've been talking about ways to do it. Um, it is early access, so please bear in mind that if we do have multiplayer, we're probably going to be introducing it into steps. So it might not be the end result from the get go, right? So again, please be patient with us, but we do try to to make the community happy. And keep in mind, we are also players, right? So we want the vast majority of the things that you want. So we are
Yeah,
trying our very best. Um, and to keep in mind that we've been in production for less than a year. So I truly believe, and this is not bragging, right? I truly believe that what we accomplished since the beginning of the year is actually pretty darn good.
yeah, it is. It is, and I like, and more. If I can add to what you're saying, like the more you are involved with us, the more feedback we're getting, the more uh, responsive you are to everything that's coming up or that we're trying to implement. Like the better it'll be. Like we really want to put emphasis on your feedback is like super precious, and how you guys will be involved in the community is so important to us. It brings a lot of energy to the team, and it brings a lot of also good comments on how we can prioritize things and how we make it fun for everyone, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Pathfinder is basically a community-based game. The community is super involved. They create their own modules. Like there is no way we could not listen and pay attention to the community while making a Pathfinder game.
That's so true.
So we are doing our very best. Again, all I ask is bear in mind that we can't do everything at once, right? So please be patient with us.
Another question from Big Puppy Stewart. Any more classes post launch plan, or that is not on anyone's mind right now?
We would love to introduce more classes. Of course, it's been on our mind since the beginning. Like, if I had my way, we would have 12 classes, right? But I mean, we might just have classes and nothing else in the game. So we have to pick and choose. So we would absolutely love to have more classes.
Oh,
I
that's a good
can't
one.
say when we're going to get more classes. I can't say for sure if. But there's very good chances we're going to get new classes if the community offers, supports, and we see that people actually want to play the game and they want to have more content and more classes. Then of course we will do more.
And what would be your classes that you want to see first on there? I know it wasn't, but I'm building on it.
I know. Um, as boring as it might sound to some, I personally think a cleric would be amazing because it is a very
Undead.
undead
Yeah.
heavy, very undead heavy dungeon. Otherwise, that's a good question. If I can make it work, I would love to have a magus. You know, and I don't know exactly how I would do it, but I think I would love to have a magus. I guess it would be kind of more or less the fighter wizard thing. I say more or less because that's not quite how it works. But that could be interesting. People have been mentioning the witch, and although the witch sounds amazing to do, it is very scary to do because they can do pretty much all magic, and that would be tricky. So I'm not saying no to it, but tricky.
Yeah. And
um,
Shadow Draken, does the game use any PF mechanic? I know we brushed it up early, so maybe it wasn't there at first, but could you just remind everyone how we integrated some Pathfinder mechanic into our like into the game?
so Pathfinder mechanics, a lot of them are not introduced exactly as is, but we do have attribute progression. We do have some feats, some class features that were included, but in a different way. Again, talents have a lot of feat like powers, or again class features or stuff like that. A good example is the fighter has a vicious swing that used to be power attack, which more or less behaves the same way. I say more or less because we can't really say you have a mischance. That would not be fun.
I can go also like in the I'll go to the main menu,
Sure.
finish the run, and I'll show a bit of the characters are there.
Again, sneak attack for rogue. Again, not exactly the same. It's not that we had precision damage dice, but it is increased damage. Uh, and while we can't have the hide mechanic properly, we can't have proper stealth. That's what the smoke bomb is meant to emulate. So again, doing what we can in the genre that we have.
But yeah, even like our class attribute, the way it works, I think it's really relevant. And I know like it's not like a perfect one for one as the tabletop RPG, but how they're used in the game makes total
I think
sense, and the synergy works well between all of them.
I think we disconnected again, and we're back. Okay,
And we're
all
back.
right. Yeah,
I
yeah,
yeah
yeah.
I okay, so going so well. All right, so like I said, like the class attributes are they are working. They're really like I said, it's not a one for one translation from the tabletop RPG to our game, but the
Mm,
synergy are they're working, how they apply to all the characters. I think they make a lot of sense, and it's really based into that Pathfinder kind of mechanic that we had in mind.
okay. Just to address real quick, it's been asked a few times now the comparison with Gauntlet. And for those wondering, I know somebody in chat actually answered it. Yes, the Gauntlet-like Pathfinder game is our other Kickstarter game, Abomination Vaults. So those are two different things, right? This
Hmm.
is more of a Survivor, Bullet Heaven, Hades-ish game, while the other one will be closer to Gauntlet. That is correct.
Exactly. Yeah. Those two are two separate games, but we have that deal going on with Paizo where we are working actually on those two games. But the one that's more comparable to Gauntlet is it's more towards 2025.
Yeah, it's not going to be for a while still. While this one, September 14th. Yeah.
Exactly. Hold on. Trying to get more questions. Um, yeah, you talked about the weapons, but why did you choose those weapons for every character? Like how what determined that you wanted like the fighter to have the bastard sword, the daggers for the rogue? Like how was it important for you to have those kind of iconic weapons into the game? Like what was your design choice for them?
So there was actually a few things to do with that. First, it needed to work well in a Survivor game,
Hmm.
right? It needed to be able to translate well. So we took a good look at all the other Survivor type games and what kind of attacks they had. So that was the base of it. So what can we do that is similar, but that has that Pathfinder flavor, that had that Pathfinder vibe to it?
Yeah.
Then uh, originally, just for example, originally the bastard sword was a great sword, but when we decided to make it the main attack of the fighter, I wanted the fighter to have a shield,
Yeah.
and you can't use a great sword with one hand, but a bastard sword you can. So the bastard sword makes sense. So that's why it's big. It's bigger than a short sword would be. It's a little bit bigger than a long sword would be as well. Although long sword are pretty big too. And also, I, I guess Bastard Sword came to mind. I was thinking about a Miri, and we decided to go with Fighter instead of Barbarian because we do have a Miri in the other game.
Yeah.
So we wanted to have a different class, but the Bastard Sword stuck, and the way it works and whatnot has evolved and what, but it is actually quite satisfying the way it is right now. You can go melee. It deals a pretty decent amount of damage. It has a pretty decent cone as well, but you put yourself at risk at the same time, as a fighter should be. You're a
Yeah.
vanguard. You're a front line. Dagger inspiration was from all the rogues in the universe using daggers. Mariziel being one of those as well. They all use daggers or short sword, but dagger being a big one of them. Throwing daggers are fun. Again, inspiration from Vampire Survivor that has, I think they call it knife, but for us it's dagger. And all the dagger throwers in the universe should be as awesome as our rogue is,
Indeed.
uh, because it is fun. And once you have the proper synergy, the dagger basic attack actually gets really really good. Once you have penetrating shots and your dagger starts going through enemies and hitting like line of enemies, it is very very satisfying.
Okay, so I'm gonna build up on that question that is really from GP
Yeah.
undefined. So let's go a bit deeper into the talents because you're talking about synergies. Like, do you want to do a bit of a like take a character and go into their talent trees or?
Okay. I see you're on Rogue right now.
Yeah.
So Rogue is all about mobility and just like agility in general. Like
Hmm.
they want to just not get hit
Yeah.
because they don't reduce damage, they don't absorb hits, they just want to not get hit. And thanks to that, a lot of the tools that you get early is you get increased movement speed. You already have faster movement speed than the two other classes, right? You're already a little bit faster.
I have to say though, the movement speed is I think the best thing. The thing
I
that I
know.
prefer in the game.
And if you want to be a treasure hunter, which is find as many chests as you can during your run, Rogue is probably your go-to class.
Yeah.
Because you would take Rogue, you take the fleet passive, and then you put points into mobility, and you're basically Sonic the Hedgehog. Um, you might lack a bit offensively until you put points into offensive things, but yes. So basically, the Rogue, especially at the beginning, is a lot about hit and run. So you have your sneak attack. So you try to hit with your hardest hitting attack to open. Uh, Try to one shot weak enemies. If not, then you finish them off with something else, and then you run away and you rinse and repeat. They have access with Eldritch Trickster to some spells, which are either razor projectile because they benefit from some of your abilities, for example, penetrating shots,
Hmm.
and then the enchanted shot passives that go on top of penetrating shots. Smoke bomb is a good defensive tools, but cheat that is exactly what it sounds like. It allows you to not die.
Nice.
And because rogue are sneaky, because rogue, like to be rogues, uh, cheat that has a cooldown. So you can actually use it several times in a run once it comes back from cooldown. So it is really good at staying alive. And there is the passive upgrade of cheat death is called Immortal Rogue, which reduces that cooldown.
Nice.
So it allows you to play eventually a lot more aggressively with a rogue than you normally would at the beginning.
You know what? I think Ali, I think we should do another stream at some point and do that synergy with our passives and our talent trees.
Absolutely.
Because it's
There's a lot
super
to say.
interesting. Yeah, there's a lot to say, and we don't have much time left. I know we had problems at first, so we'll take a last question from Kaido. I see there's a quest section in the menu. How do they
Yeah.
work? So I'll go right there. You can explain it a bit. I know mines are a bit higher level, but
Yeah. Also, so I did a revamp recently on the quest objectives, because there was feedback both internally and from the community that the quest objectives were a bit extreme. So I revised the numbers. So now instead of being 20 floors, you need to complete. It might just be 5. So
okay,
it's a lot more manageable for the same amount of gold and experience that you would receive. Same thing with slaying elites. It might not be 250. It might be 25, which again a lot more manageable.
yeah,
And quests are meant as a way to help speed up progression, right?
yeah,
So quest will give you XP, it will give you gold, and sometimes it will give you attribute points and or talent points. Now, you cannot go past the cap of your attributes or past the cap of your talents, but it takes a very long time to unlock all attributes and all talent points. So this makes it so it can be faster.
get it.
A little trick also, I'm saying a trick. This is your free trick for the day. If you complete a quest and you don't bank it in, and then you go in game with a different class, when you leave that, you can bank that quest on that class, even though the other one completed it.
Oh,
So that
that's nice.
helps
Yeah,
like power level your companion.
get it. Some little tweaks and little hints on how to power level some characters. And yeah,
Uh, and
uh,
yeah, quests are just meant to add more objectives, to add a bit more to do, and to reward you at the same time.
sweet. Ollie, I think that'll be it for us. We went a little bit further than we were supposed to, but we had technical issues. Thank you so much, everyone. You can go on our Discord if you are interested into talking, giving feedbacks, interacting with us. I think Ollie's sometimes there just to answer some questions. I gave him the green light just to be even more insightful on our chats. And if you want to follow the game, we're getting out on September 14th in early access. You can wishlist the game on Steam. Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure. Always fun to be here. All right. Cheers.
Thank you guys.